The Noxary T60 is a self-described extremely simple tray mount case, and it would have been my favorite tray if it wasn't for a couple flaws. There's a whole meme around tray mount keyboards, and I think it's the same as the Cherry MX Brown effect. Because it's the first thing you used, you just look down on it after you've moved on. But I don't think tray mount boards are necessarily bad, and I actually kinda like them when using a plateless build inside a case that doesn't have a center post. I like the bouncy typing experience on something like the Revo 1 or the Grid 600, so when I saw that the T60 was missing both of its middle posts, I knew I had to get one. There's not much in design that stands out. It is indeed simple, but there is a focus on keeping everything as low profile as possible. The front height is about as short as the QXP, which is known for that very thing. We see that the thicker bezel widths on the front and rear match up, while the left and right sides stay slim. The outer chamfers are fairly aggressive, while the inner ones are a little more moderate. Because it's made to work with a variety of 60% PCBs, the USB port cutout is large, but it's not the worst I've ever seen. I got mine in Hyper Red, which I think is one of the more attractive reds I've seen on a keyboard. In my opinion, this kind of deep red has an easier time matching with keysets compared to the usual. I guess the only thing to comment on in build quality is the finish quality, which is excellent here. It's a very smooth and even finish with a super fine grain that gives it a shimmery look. No lines to be found anywhere. Some appreciated small details include slots for rubber bump-ons and the nicer than usual included screws. Being an aluminum case without any brass parts, this is lightweight, but I've always preferred that over unnecessary complexity. Finally, moving on to the typing experience, I'll be using my usual test build for tray mounts, which is plateless with stock Gateron yellows. So do the remove center posts do anything? Yes, but not the thing they're supposed to do. Usually, a tray mount board has 6 posts, 2 on the far sides between the A and Z rows, 1 under tab, 1 under pipe, 1 between G and H, and 1 under the spacebar. The T60 removes the last 2, which, according to its product page, creates a more flexible typing experience. This makes a lot of sense since now the majority of the alphas are a good bit further from their nearest standoff, which gives the PCB room to move slightly. In practice, especially for my build, which is the best case, or worst depending on how you look at it, scenario for flex and bounce, this falls apart. When typing, I feel absolutely none of the vibrations that I would expect from a center postless tray mount board. It actually transfers close to none. I was wondering why this might be and only found my answer when I turned the board upside down. When I pressed a key, I heard a familiar click of PCB components hitting the bottom case. You could maybe see this coming with just how short the standoffs are. They measure in at around 2.5mm. The soldered switch legs are about 2mm, so we're talking about a minuscule 0.5mm tolerance for PCB movement, which really doesn't seem at all adequate considering it bends like this without a plate. Just the fact that turning the board upside down allowed clanking means that the PCB will bend that much just by the weight of the switches and keycaps. You can even have compatibility issues due to these short standoffs. The GH60 from TechKeys have fairly large reset switches, which makes them entirely incompatible with the T60. Variations in small things like these that you typically wouldn't think about can become a problem in this case. Seeing this, I did some troubleshooting on my build. I checked that there aren't any tall components and that the PCB wasn't warped in its resting state. I finally confirmed it by trying it with a grid with the center post removed, which yielded the bouncy feeling I was expecting. Due to the collision issue, I don't consider the case to be compatible with plateless builds. I think something like a polycarbonate plate might be the solution, but even that's super bendy and I don't know if it'll provide exactly enough support to bounce within that 0.5mm headroom. You should really only get this if you're planning to use a plate. I've searched far and wide and didn't find anyone complaining about this issue, and all of them seem to be using one. I've seen someone use a palm plate successfully. Leave a comment below if you've confirmed with an even softer material. It seems to me that the PCB must be on the brink of being compatible because each time I do a sound test, I either do or don't pick up obnoxious clanking. I've also heard claims of better sound through fewer standoffs. This isn't the best board to test that, but we'll take a look in an upcoming video on the Grid 600. I love the way this board looks. The red is perfect, and the simple shape is just a better version of a tofu. I always appreciate the lower front height, and really, this would have been the endgame tray mount case for me if I was able to use it with my favorite plateless builds. If you like stiffness, probably not an issue, but if you want an appreciable amount of flex, you'll have to look elsewhere. Also, one last thing, the product page has the Noxary N in the interior, and this one doesn't.